How's everybody doing out there? Are you having a good day? Because this day is a beautiful, fantastic day. It could be a Monday, Tuesday, Saturday, Sunday, I don't know. But it's a great day, right? So this podcast today with Carole Podell was so good. I'm not just tooting my own horn on this, but because Carole was fantastic. Now, Carole is a life strategist, not a life coach, which is different, but we explore the complexities of life's transitions, and in particular for working women, but not just necessarily for working women, because this can go for men and women. You'll get what I mean when we get into the conversation. Now, as a life transition strategist, Carole discusses the need for change and the importance of recognizing when we need to make that change, which is really important. And I think a lot of you out there, me included, sometimes we sit there and we say, you know what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And a lot of the times, those questions that we ask ourselves come at a time when it's out of necessity, it's out of urgency. We're doing it at the last minute, so to speak. So we need to find a way to not do that, because that puts us in a position where a lot of times we end up making those same exact mistakes, wrong decisions. Maybe for you, I might be calling it a wrong decision. Maybe it's the right decision. I don't know. But a lot of times when we are put in a position where we have to make a choice at that last second, we do what is out of habit, which could be, again, putting you in the wrong place, maybe the wrong place at the wrong time, whatever it might be. But it is so important to prioritize yourself and your life. And again, to strategize before you even get to that point. And when is it that you want to strategize any of this? Well, before you get into that position, that's when you want to strategize. So that means now is the time. We talk about jobs. It could be relationships. It could be any of that stuff. Now, I'm not saying look for an out as soon as you get in. It's just to make sure that you know that you are in the right place at the right time for you, not anyone else. So Carole also emphasizes the significance of understanding your own values, your personal values, and expectations, because there's a lot of expectations from the society, and that comes right down to gender roles. And what I mean by that is, we've heard it in the past, men are supposed to be the breadwinner, the women are supposed to be taking care of the house. I know that's not the way it is, but a lot of the times it's kind of ingrained in our head that that's the way it is, or things along those lines. But we have these certain roles that we're supposed to play, and we fall into that. Can I call it a trap? Well, I'm going to call it a trap. But whatever those expectations are that you think you have of yourself or others, that's what I am talking about. So again, having personal value really can impact your decision and the planning of what you need to do. Sit back, watch, listen to this podcast, because I think it's really, really good. And it's very, very helpful just to listen to what Carole has to say. Again, it's Carole Podell. And look in the show notes. I'll leave some links to her website. She has a podcast and everything else. But please enjoy this. And remember to like, share, comment, follow. All of that helps this particular podcast grow. If we grow, we get bigger and better guests. Not necessarily that any of the guests are not big or good, because they all are fantastic. So if you're ready, let's get right into it.
Welcome to Amazing People, Amazing Things with your host, Chuck Tuck.
Today, I think our conversation is basically going to be around, well, you're a life transition strategist. Mm-hmm. So you really work with, should I single it out? No pun intended.
No.
For single moms or women in general?
Mostly working moms, mostly working
Okay.
women. They don't have to be working. They're like highly ambitious. Usually it's somebody who's trying to like make a transition in their life, whether that is from divorce, it's like forced. They want to change, or, like whether they're a stay-at-home mom and coming back to the workforce, or they're, just like in like a time of life where they're like, I really need a change and I don't know what that is, or I know what that is and I can't. It's really about like it's somewhere between, it's like not a career coach and it's not a life coach. I really like fill into like, what do you want? Because that's a lot of times when you're like a working mom, that's a hard one to know. It's a hard one to answer. And then strategizing how you work towards that and get into action. So that's why it's like a life transition strategist. It's somewhere between. I still haven't quite found. It's sort of like, creative and linear. It's like you're sort of bringing both in. But it's really for like working moms for the most part.
Okay. Yeah, and like you said, I think a lot of us, women and men both, we have a hard time and knowing how to strategize that transition, that change.
Yeah.
But oftentimes too, we don't even know what that change is. It's happening.
Yeah.
And we're going through it, and all of a sudden it's just like, what's happening?
Yeah. Yeah.
So this may sound silly,
No.
but I want to ask you, since I'm a man, I'm not a woman.
Well, I talk with men. I just don't tend to work with men. Yeah.
Yeah. I think this can be for both sexes,
100%.
for everyone.
Yeah.
But again, like I was saying, it's hard for us to know that we're in that transition. So I wanted to find out from you, how do the working moms out there know that they are in this transition?
Well, I mean, honestly, usually the thing that happens is there's some kind of crisis. There's a burnout, or there's like usually, and this is also what I'm trying to like, this is my message a lot, is that you don't need a midlife crisis or to hit a wall to make a change. But so often that's what happens. Like, that's the thing, is that something thrusts you into a moment of like, I'm bottomed and now I can't move. So I have to move. The idea is that, and this happens to a lot of, I mean, myself included, like, people are afraid of change for the most part, which makes sense. I mean, we are our habits, right? Like, that's kind of it. So making a change is really like, making that, knowing that it's time a lot, like you'll get like I said, stay-at-home mom who wants to go back into the workforce but doesn't really know what they want, or often it's just like, I'm not that happy and I know I should be, and I think that's when it's women and men. Like, I think that's really the catalyst for both genders. It doesn't really matter, is like, I have a lot of what I've wanted. I have some financial security, or I have a partner who I care about, or I wanted the family that I have. I like a lot of elements of my life, and somehow it still doesn't feel right. And I don't know why.
And I think one thing that you said that a lot of us do is we get into that routine or call it a rut. So we wait and wait. And then all of a sudden we're either depressed. We want to get can I say it? It's my show. We want to get the hell out of there.
I curse, so if you tell me not to, I won't, but
this is for adults.
Yeah.
But we put ourselves into that position, I think, because we wait so long. And then all of a sudden it's just like, what do I do? How do I get out of here? And now you're forced to make sometimes these transitions or decisions without having to think through things.
That's right. And so you just start throwing things against the wall, or grabbing things that are around you without any kind of thought or strategy or through line, or I mean, this is funny, like vision to where you want to be. I mean, there's some statistic where it's something like only 15% of the world has like a calendar that they work off of. It's some crazy number where it's like, they say, like, it's scientifically proven that if you write down what you're doing for the day, and even if it's aspirational, you are 70% more likely to get it done. So we don't really do that with these kinds of things because we're accustomed to life just coming and moving, and even if we have big dreams, how to do them often is not, it's, or at least in my experience, myself included for many years, it's not strategic in a way that gets you there. And I don't mean like, the thing is that life, and this is what my podcast, She Takes the Lead, is all about, is the left turns that come at you, and then how do you come at them from there. The thing is that regardless of where you want your life to go, your life is going to go in certain directions because life comes at you and it's not what you were expecting or wanted or thought you needed or anything. And now what do you do, with both pieces of information? So there's an amount of flexibility that I think you need to have. But when you're like clear in what you want, or at least have that understanding of what your values are within that. And I don't mean, when I say values, I don't mean like good, bad values. I just mean the things that wake you up in the morning that are true to that, not what you want it to be, but what is actually waking you up in the morning. It can project you it can keep you, it keeps you on track to understand when you are happy with what you're doing or not. Because in my experience, a lot of times what we're happy about in our head is like what we imagine in our mind of happiness. And if I get this, if I do this, if I experience this, I will be happy, is not actually the feeling of happiness. And it's not usually reality. You're looking for the feeling of what you like to do and what fills you up, not the image. And that's that's the mindset shift. That's the part that is mindset rather than just practical application and homework.
I think nowadays more than ever, because of social media and everything else, we tend to formulate what we want our life to look like, which may emulate somebody else's life, which I think there's that fine line of aspiring to be or aspiring to accomplish what somebody else did.
Yeah.
And also that fine line of, like I said, you put it in your mind, but it's not your heart.
Yeah.
So a lot of us tend to lead with our mind because we are picturing and imagine, because we are bombarded with all these images of whatever it might be, whatever your success is.
Okay.
And I think we need to kind of step back, take that pause and see what our heart says.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I was a TV producer for many years before I worked for ABC News, for Good Morning America. Like, it was a really exciting job, and I was with my now ex-husband and happy. And I had like on paper and I was pursuing the arts, and I was an actor and a singer. Like, I was doing all the things that ironically you actually have to choose to do.
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of like rejection. So like one would think that you'd make the choice to do it. And, I was married and we were trying to have a family and it wasn't really working. And finally he was like, and the marriage was not working, period. It wasn't. And finally he was like, and I don't think I want children. And I was like, okay. And he was like, okay, what? And I was like, okay, you can go. Like, he wanted to go. He needed me to say that clearly. But that was probably the first real decision I'd ever made, like that was just about me. That was about what I wanted. That was based on the feeling that I understood in my bones was what was going to make me happy. I mean, I ended up being a single mom. I have a 6-year-old. Like, it took a long time and a lot of work to do. But the point is that that feeling of what that value is for me was propelling me into dealing with the left turn, which is that my marriage is ending and my husband doesn't want to be with me anymore. So like the image of what happiness, I mean, I was devastated. Like, it wasn't like, yay, it was on the floor. Like, I was a hot mess. But the thing is that the feeling that I just had the feeling that I knew what I wanted at that moment because of the feeling. And I changed my entire life because it was no longer supporting what I wanted, which ultimately was to have a kid. And so like the fancy job at ABC looked great, but not for me because it didn't make me happy because it wasn't, I was up at midnight to go to work and there was no like social, like it wasn't supporting me, even though like on paper it looked really great. It was, and I ended up like going into what seemed like a relatively dry career path, but I loved it. I thought it was great. It worked for me because it supported me the way I needed supporting at that moment.
Well, I hope this doesn't come across chauvinistic or wrong for people, but I think that women have a more difficult time because of the fact that women, this is in general, tend to be the nurturer,
Yeah.
meaning that they have to make things make things okay for somebody else.
Yeah.
So they're taking care of themselves, taking care of somebody else, but then they never give them permission to do what they want to do.
Yeah.
And there's only 24 hours in a day. So how can you put everything together? My question is, should people in general begin to strategize before the crisis?
Yes. I mean, that's what you said. And I agree with you. I mean, generalizations are generalizations. Not everybody is wired exactly the same way, but I do tend to think, certainly in this society as well, women are nurturers. I mean, we have the babies, and I understand, not everybody wants a baby. And of course but ultimately, we have the babies, we're caretakers, it's what what came first, chicken, egg,
Yeah.
either way, that's our role. Yes. And I do think that you lose sight of what you want. So when you're making these decisions or trying to move forward, trying to make that change or just be in your relationship there, if you're not consciously making sure you're included, and not just included, prioritized, there's a lot of resentment that can show up regardless of that you chose it, and it creates a lot of times when you start to make these changes, a lot of times women, and because we're nurturers, yes, we go, okay, I want to change my career. Or I want to go back from I'm a stay-at-home mom. I stayed home for a couple of years. I'm going to go back into the workforce, but I don't want to do what I did because it doesn't support the family anymore and it doesn't support me anymore. Fine, totally get it. But then the next question is, what can I do that supports the family that I might like? But the question should be, what do I like to do? And then how can I make that support the family?
Yeah. It's not selfish or selfless to think of yourself. I think it's very important to think of yourself.
Yeah. But we don't often.
Right.
Often it's in our wiring, it's in our culture. We don't. I mean, that's why I work more with women than men ultimately, because that particular piece of wiring is different. We stop we get our periods every month. It's a reminder that we are the nurturer. You know what I mean? That we are able to have children, or that the children are part of our system. We have to stop and have a baby. It's a lot on your body. And even if you're adopting or whatever, it's still very much attached. And men don't really experience that. Men sit down, and this is also this is the shady part for men, excuse my, cursing, but is that, men tend to, okay, you have to pick a career and then you have to do that career for 50 years until you die. And you're supposed to support the family and you're supposed to provide. And that's not really fair either. That's the piece that I when I talk to men sometimes when we're talking about this subject, that they're like, well, I was going to work another 10 years and then retire. And I'm like, why? Why were you're not happy in this job? You're very capable. What made you think you need to do this? And he's like, well, I'm supporting the family. I'm doing this. And I'm like, I get it. But, especially in this day and age, you can make a lot of different decisions, but it's a very gender. Yeah. It's very gender based roles. And I get those roles. That's fine. I take care of everybody in my family. I still do. I preach making sure that you're taking care of yourself. But the reason I preach it is because I was client one.
Right. Ground zero, client one.
Exactly. I was my own gateway drug.
Oh, and I do the sigh and look up because, we're talking about this and it's in a way, it's plain as day right there in front of us. And we know these things because we tell others to do this stuff, and we tell others to follow this, but we just have such a difficult time ourselves, men and women,
Yeah.
On following that path of your heart or whatever it might be.
That's also the
Are there
supposed to, right? Like that's the
right?
supposed to. We're all in, well, I'm supposed to do this. I'm supposed to be this. I'm supposed to do that. Like try this and say this. And it's a trap. It's just
Yeah.
a trap. And I'm not saying that it's going to disappear ever, probably. We all have responsibilities and roles to play in our relationships. But the framing of how we create it is permission, but like it feels like such a silly word because it's like, well, give yourself permission to try something new.
Well, we're just now talking with Carole Podell. She is a life strategist, different from being a life coach, and she mainly works with ambitious working women, but this can really go with men or women. But, what we're talking about is it's so hard for us as individuals to follow our heart, to do what we want, to feel good inside and outside, because oftentimes we think that there's a role that we have to play. So we follow those rules of the role. Do we begin strategizing early, or, rather than waiting till that crisis happens? Because I think a lot of us, we wait until it's a necessity and then we do it, but then we're forced to do it. And then I think a lot of us get ourselves in that position where we end up doing something we don't want to do again.
Right.
So when is the right time to start strategizing?
Right away.
Right away.
As soon as you have, like right away. As soon as you start saying like, I'm curious about this, or maybe I want this, like that's your body saying, those things should be listened to. They're not outrageous. They're your thoughts,
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you're going to do that exact thing. But I think, like people suppress that piece. So they're like, oh, wouldn't it be cool to blah, 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 or wouldn't it be neat if I did blah, blah, blah. But the moment that you're saying like, this would be neat, start thinking about it. I'm not saying you should start doing it, but that's also when, knowing your value system and understanding sort of a pragmatic route to change makes it not so special, not so precious. Making changes in your life is very natural and normal, and wanting different things in your life is very natural and normal. The thing that's not natural and normal is doing exactly the same thing over and over and over again till you die.
Yeah. Well, like you're saying, making change is part of the natural part about our life, is a natural thing that we do. But kind of like what we were talking about earlier is we get put in these gender roles or whatever you're supposed to do. It's the same thing with this change. Sometime, somewhere along the lines of growing up, we were told not to make changes, or we took it as don't make so many changes. Why do you keep doing that? Why do you talk about that? Why do you? And then I think it hinders us from living that natural, healthy life.
Yeah. It's also like everybody, you go to the gym. You don't go to the gym once and suddenly you're jacked, Like you don't eat like carrots and celery for dinner once and suddenly you've dropped all the weight that that you wanted to lose. It's the same with how you live your life and how you move through your life. Like small incremental things make very big difference over time. And if you're the same with like if you're to transition into other things, whether that's professionally or personally. I hate to, this is maybe a little macabre like topic around it, but the truth is like if you're not happy in your marriage, you don't just like dump out of the marriage, you go through steps to figure out if it's to dump. The same thing for everything. Like it's not about, okay, well now I'm I'm not really happy with work. Well, what's that about? Well, if I had an extra $50,000, would I be happier at work? Okay. No, not really. Maybe it's not money. Okay. Well, what am I like, is my boss sucking? Well, no, not really. What do I not like about, like, what do I like about it? Okay, well, I'm a project manager. I enjoy organizing things. I enjoy budgeting. So that's not it. Like going through these steps to find the thing, because it's usually one or two things. It's not like the whole, I mean, it can be, those one or two things can be pretty big. They can be that you're getting bullied at work. They can be that you're working midnight to 9 in the morning, and that doesn't, those are big one things, but it's one thing. The change is in the step, is in the 5 minutes in the day when you are, going through a mindset shift of I have your listeners can have this for free. I'd love to give this to your listeners. Actually, it's a how do you go from go from desire, not default. It's like a very simple practice, a challenge of how you can shift from making a change based on what you desire, or just understanding based on what you desire, not what is your default of whether you're caretaking or whether you're being responsible for the family. And it's small. It's not a big exercise, but it is a significant exercise to do that really opens up the idea of options. Mm-hmm. So you see the options and then how to make small incremental changes. I personally, I say this all the time. A decision is not a decision until it's turned into action.
Right.
So the small actions that you do are the decisions you're making. If you're just thinking about it in your head, you're not actually making the decision. I can go into a Starbucks and want to order a soy chai latte, but until I'm there saying, you know what, I'm going to have a coffee, a black coffee, I haven't decided I'm having the soy chai latte, So it's the same with that. And that is the changes so that so that you don't do them in crisis. So they're not having to, sometimes they happen in crisis. Like not everybody, the crises happen and that sucks. But once you start learning the method that I do, which is, I call it the clarity concept, but is really like, once you start understanding the process of change, now I've pivoted 1,000 times on purpose, not just because I couldn't do the job or something wasn't happy or I wasn't working, or I was like, this is almost what I want to do. Once you go through the steps in the process of the same formula of how to understand what you want, how to surround yourself with like-minded people, what that looks like, how to maybe distance yourself from some people that are really not aligned with what you want, and then how to find what are the things that you like that you're doing that you can bring to, like the skill sets or the practices that you like that you're doing, and bring them to the new thing that you're doing so that you can do what you want, and then put it into action. And the action are those, again, the action is really, the rest of it is just blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. Without that action, it's just bullshit. Sorry.
Yeah.
Just bullshit.
So a few things here. I just want to make sure, and I said, change, free will kind of thing. Yes, but not because you start something and go, I don't like it. Oh, do something. Oh, I don't like it. Not that type of change like that. You have to go through a process. I'll say a process of elimination. And what I have done in the past, I know people, the old days of putting that line down the middle of the sheet of paper and saying what I like and what I don't like. So I took it a step further. I gave 100% to each side. And like you said, because there could be 2 dislikes, but those 2 dislikes could be a 75% and a 25%. But then you have 7 of these likes over here that add up to 100%. Well, to me, those 2 dislikes outweigh the 7 or the 5 likes, because I may be able to get that someplace else. But these are so big that I can't, it's so big that, pulling one out will make that shift. So I think about it that way. The other thing, I want to remind people that we're having a conversation right now, or I'm having a conversation,
Yeah,
and
no.
you're all listening, with Carole Podell, and she has a podcast, and the podcast is called She Takes the Lead. So I encourage all of you out there to find it, listen to it. It's a great podcast. So,
Thank
I wanted to get that out.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, and the
Yeah.
download is the free thing for your listeners is carolepodell.com/desire download. Simple.
Okay, we'll make sure we put that in the show notes as well.
Thank
Is there a way that we've been saying strategize, think about these things before you get to the crisis point? What is that step one, or is there step one that we can begin to ask ourselves, or maybe that's it? We ask ourselves, do
Yeah.
we want to be here?
Yeah, my step one is I have like an intake, I have a questionnaire, but the step one is I think that there are like 3, maybe 5 values that we live by. They can shift a little bit, but fundamentally they generally are the same, and they can shift priority, certainly. But usually even the last 2 of the 5 go into the first 3. So for me, my values, for example, are family, purpose, and learning. So family, I mean, I literally was like, okay, my marriage can end. I want to have a baby. Like, family is that important to me. And I'm not saying that that's convenient or that I'm a saint over it. It's actually inconvenient at times, and I've made bad decisions as a result of it too. It just, that's part of my value system. Purpose, I need purpose to get to work, like to do things. I need to feel like there's something bigger than me, because unfortunately, and this is just honest, I can't actually, I'm not really good at doing things that are just solely on behalf of myself. Like, I need something larger than me to believe that it's worthy. And that's not, again, neither good nor bad, just fact. Like, it is good because it elevates my wanting to help people, but it's not good when you're trying to, just take care of yourself sometimes,
Yeah.
and learning. So because I need to be learning all the time. I can't just clock in. I need to be learning to move forward. So there's different values. I would say, like, I mean, I have a sheet. It's part of my program, but literally just go to Google and Google, like, list values and go through and take 5 minutes. Give yourself a timer. I'm big on timers. And go through and pick the 3 to 5 that really, feel that resonate, and start figuring out why, and write down a list of why these resonate. And it will start to get you thinking in that way of understanding what's really leading you, like what's making you tick, so that you can then, that is sort of my step 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that, because sometimes we feel like that there is a step 1 that everybody has to take, and it's the same, and it really isn't. People's ambitions we're all different.
Yeah.
And your reasoning for doing something or to get motivated is going to be different from mine, even though we might be headed towards the same end game.
You're very wise, Chuck.
But how we start is going to be totally different.
Totally. That's very wise. Yeah, I mean, I see it I have a 6-year-old, and I'm raising her, to be a strong woman. Like, that's my goal, strong women raise strong women. I'm trying to raise her to be independent and self-sufficient, and also caring and kind and loving. And she's kind of an alpha kid, and she's got 2 other little girlfriends who are her age, who are also alpha kids. But they're all different kids. Like, they're all very strong-willed. They're all very, like, specific in their ways, but they need different things at different moments. and they are alpha in different ways. We're not all wired the same way, and we shouldn't be. Like, everybody doesn't need to be blindly ambitious. Some people do need to like bring a calm energy into the room that's like, yeah, let's go with that. No, I don't want to lead you. I want to follow you, and understand that deciding to follow someone is a baller move as much as deciding to lead someone. They both need to exist, you know?
Oh yeah, that's called support, a support system.
That is what it's called.
Right? I don't think there's one leader, one person out there that can do it all on their own without having that something in the back.
That's right.
Someone supporting them.
That's right. For sure. For sure. And may we have them, you know, like that's critical. The tribe that I that's part of my concept is like, your tribe is not just like, you know, your friends who you can go get drinks with on Saturday night. Like, your tribe are the people that you need to move this rock. That's life.
All of a sudden, a song just hit my head.
Huh?
I am woman, hear me roar. No, you know the song, right?
I do. That's hysterical. Yes, I am woman, hear me roar. I am man, hear me roar. I mean, we've got to.
Yeah.
We're in a modern, like, we're in a different time. Like, we should not. Why we're living. I mean, I'm hardly like the rebel of, you know. I mean, in my neighborhood maybe, but like in life maybe not. But the truth is, like, why we need to live in this one way, given all of the ways that the world functions. It's like, it's just about, you know, allowing yourself to be you and allowing other people to be them.
That is perfect, because a lot of times others don't allow others to be themselves.
That's right.
So we all need to allow people to do what they need to do.
Yeah.
You know, that's the one thing that comes to mind is growing up, and even my older part of my life. Oh, you know, I want that. Oh, I'm thinking about that. And you get why do you keep wanting this? Why do you keep doing, stop doing that? It's like, no, I'm basically thinking out loud, saying I want it. And like you said, I didn't take the action to get it yet.
Right.
I'm just saying, hey, that looks pretty cool. I might want to have that. But when it comes right down to it, like I said, I may want a whatever macchiato, this, that, and I get up and go black coffee.
Right. No, I think it's true. Like, your judgment, you are as flexible as your own judgment about yourself. Like, anytime you see someone who's judgmental about something else, you know that they are like 10 times, 20 times worse on themselves. And it may make you crazy because you're like, God, that makes me nuts. But like, it's almost at a point I feel bad. I'm like, let go. It's okay. Like, you know, be kind. Like, you know, it's going to be okay. You know, because then, I mean, you know, it's a better world. I mean, Mel Robbins just has hit number one with this very simple concept, the let them theory. You know, it's super simple. Just let them. They want to do this, let them. They want to change, let them. They want to stay the same, let them. It doesn't, just let people be who they are. And, you know.
And if you don't get that concept, here's what I have to say.
Yes.
Chill, and be like a dog.
Ooh, I
Do
like,
you like
it.
it?
I do. Did you ever think? I always had this. I love that look that that dogs give you. That is like they're looking at you and then they do this.
Yeah, that.
You know, it's like, what are they doing? I always wonder what they're thinking at that very moment. I'm like, you know, we see dogs as so wise. Or I do at least. I'm wondering what they're like. Are they solving the world, or are they just like, I want a treat? I don't know. But I love it. I love it.
Yeah. You know, I'm going to have to. Well,
It needs to be on a bumper.
that's my
sticker or
phrase.
something. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it needs to be on a bumper sticker or something. I think you should make some merch.
Let me take that.
Yeah,
note.
write that down for sure.
But this conversation today has been fantastic. I mean, everything that you're talking about is something not only for ambitious single moms and just women in general, but people.
Yeah.
We need to take all of this into consideration. I don't think we're both saying you go do this, you have to, because that's what we're saying is you don't have to.
No.
And the key to everything is be prepared.
Yeah, and be open. Like, do
Yeah.
what you can to stay open for your the benefit of yourself and the benefit of the people around you. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it.
Carole, this has been fantastic. I've had a great time today
Thank
having
you.
the conversation with you, and
Me too.
it's kind of opened my mind up for change and other things too. But it's not going to happen until I take action.
That's
I can
right.
think about it.
I love that. If that's what you took away, then I'm very happy. Yes, it's not a decision's not a decision until you take action.
Yep.
But yeah,
Love
I mean,
it.
clearly you take action all the time. I can tell you wouldn't have this podcast if you didn't,
I wouldn't be hanging onto the edge and going, please, 10 million people.
Yes, we got to get there. No, that's what we do, right? That's the point.
Yeah.
But otherwise, what were you going to do? Like, you're going to hang out, and just, it's just boring. Nobody wants to be boring.
Yeah. Oh, now I just opened up another little door. It's don't wait for things to happen.
Yes.
I think that could kind of go along with everything that we're talking about as far as change. You don't wait for it because again, it puts you into the position where all of a sudden you have to do it. And then you will, I think more often than not, you end up making that same wrong decision.
Yeah.
That might be the wrong way to say it, but we end up in the same hole.
Yeah. I mean, it's muscles, it's like you exercise the habit of not following what you want or not thinking that you could do something different, or you exercise the muscle that is saying, you know what, I'm going to explore this. I'm not going to put a grenade across my table of life and like destroy everything. That's why I don't think you need to do it in a crisis. But like this is it's just this movement of muscle of saying, oh, let me explore it and see where it goes. And then, take it in. Yeah, for sure, man. It's like, it's just movement.
I'll give you that dog look. And that's not what did she say? That's oh, yeah, that's really good.
All right. Thank you. I'll give it back to you.
Carole, once again, thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I love talking to you.
Likewise.